and welcome to week 11 of Web Design Decal. Yeah, since it's week 11 already, this pretty much means that this is our second to last week, which is pretty crazy, yeah. This week's design lecture will be on finding inspiration and portfolio building for those of you guys who are interested in digital product design slash and or UI UX design. So yeah, hopefully this lecture will be very helpful for you guys who are still very new and want to try and venture into this field. And yeah, let's get going. So yeah, part one, finding inspiration. Find that some of the images and GIFs we'll be using are by a cool illustrator named Pablo Stanley, and link is down there below. So you might be hearing this term a lot, especially when you're first starting out. What does it mean exactly to have an eye for design? And well, the answer is actually it's a facade. Nothing like this eye or this natural sense doesn't actually come to us naturally at all. It's more of a gradual understanding of how current design systems and trends work in like the overall large picture in this industry. How you train your eye for design really actually requires diligence, a lot of discipline, and hard work. So, yeah, again, sometimes people will come into this class and they'll ask me, I I think I can program. I think I know what I like and I know what I want to make, but I'm missing the design part. Um, I don't know exactly like what is considered good design. And you might say, "Oh, I'm not like an artistic person. I'm not creative." Well, that's kind of false because everyone starts the same when we're kids. It's whether or not you decide to pursue this interest or not. You don't want to wait for inspiration to come to you. And again, to reiterate, none of us are naturally creative people, and inspiration only comes when you're actively seeking it. So again, what does it mean, like I said earlier, to have discipline? You know, you have to make the commitment to pay attention actively to design trends, to cultivate this eye of design, even if you're busy. And yeah, it's hard to prioritize, right? We're all students, we have classwork, jobs, family, friends. Um, but try to learn something new every single day, even if it's small, even if it's just like reading a quick article on Medium about something you haven't learned before. Another way to, cultivate this eye of design in small increments is to really take a moment to look at the apps you already use today. And you might want to ask, why do these apps work? Why are they exactly designed the way they are? Why is this button here? What is it meant for? Answering all these kind of questions should be helpful in noting how UI designers work, and it actually should get you closer to the mindset that you're looking for. So if we're looking, next time you open an app, say, I guess if we take the UI here, for example, you might question like, oh, why is the go button, listed in the bottom right? If we were to find an answer for that, I'd probably refer back to our responsive design lecture where we talked about, oh, well, buttons are most accessible when they're on the bottom half of the screen, right? And then most people tend to be right-handed when they're using their phone. So, that could be just some kind of explanation, just a deeper way of understanding how your apps work. And so, again, what does it mean to look at the world like an artist, like a designer? Every artist gets the question, where do you get your ideas? And I think inherently no one's going to really say, I steal them. But inherently, we kind of mean, by steal, we mean like take inspiration. We mean not this. Unfortunately, this is like a case of where one of our previous instructors had her website stolen. like the code in the Chrome inspector, like you could see they didn't even try changing much. They pretty much just changed the comment where it was created by her. We don't mean to steal like this. We don't mean explicit plagiarism. Instead, what we mean more is like a remix, you know? You should take works that you like, take the aspects that you like from these works, and you should make them your own, you know? And sometimes that might look like this, where you'll be working on a mockup, say in like Adobe XD, and you're gonna have your inspiration right next to you. Again, this does not mean explicitly copy what they have, but you know, it can be little things like, oh, that color really stands out to me. I really like that. I'm going to use it as a card background. Things like that, you know? But again, don't be discouraged on the first try because, you know, it's never going to be right or perfect the first time. You should constantly be refining, working on it, and improving it. And, you know, sometimes this looks like asking for feedback from your friends or your mentors. And maybe it's not good, maybe it's not great, but your work is something. You should be proud of your work, even if you know it's not the best right now. You're still making progress. Okay, so you're like, sure, but where do I find good design to take inspiration from? Well, here's a huge resource dump. The first link is a great place to look at mood boards. I think a lot of people also tend to like Pinterest. Coolors.co and gradients.io we mentioned, I believe, in the colors lecture. And then the rest are a bunch of different inspiration websites. Behance will actually have more than just UI UX case studies. It contains anything and everything from animation to illustration to, again, UI UX. Awards and Site Inspire are great websites for web design inspiration, so for like websites. And then we used to actually have the Duolingo style guidelines. I love that website, but for some reason it's the link is broken. They took it down. But if you're interested in looking at a style guide for a big brand, you can usually search up that company's name, blank style guide, to get a good idea of what branding guidelines are like. Here I've linked Uber's, and then I've also linked material.io, which I've referenced before in in a Piazza post. But yeah, these are all great resources. And of course, you should always be reading. UXdesign.cc, all of these, some of these are collective, some of these are individual designers and artists. They regularly post content that I think is very inspirational. So yeah, always a great resource. And all of it, sadly, you know, it's okay if you don't read all of this daily, but it's nice to have this list on handy. And yes, you actually have to design. You can spend all the time you want on absorbing great content, taking inspiration. You can, yeah, again, take all the time you want, but you know, you're not actually going to have a product until you actually make something. But again, you're not alone, right? We have, if you're looking for closer resources in person, we have alumni. We have like plenty of people that you can reach out to. I think at the end of this presentation, I will have a link to Cofolios. I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, these are all previous instructors. You can always email them, talk to them about how they got there, why they like web design, things like that. So yeah, that's my brief pout on finding inspiration. We have a short intermission where we will talk about the gap. This is just a cool video, I think, that I like to show every single time. If you're feeling discouraged, feeling down about creating, don't worry.
Nobody tells people who are beginners, and I really wish somebody had told this to me, is that all of us who do creative work, like, we get into it, and we get into it because we have good taste. But it's like there's a gap that for the first couple of years that you're making stuff, what you're making isn't so good, okay? It's not that great. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, your taste is still killer. And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. You know what I mean? A lot of people never get past that phase. A lot of people at that point, they quit. And the thing I would just say to you with all my heart is that most everybody I know who does interesting creative work, they went through a phase of years where they had really good taste. They could tell what they were making wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. They knew it felt short. It didn't have this special thing that we wanted it to have. And the thing I would say to you is everybody goes through that. And for you to go through it, if you're going through it right now, if you're just getting out of that phase, you got to know it's totally normal. And the most important possible thing you could do is do a lot of work. Do a huge volume of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week or every month you're going to finish one story. Because it's only by actually going through a volume of work that you're actually going to catch up and close that gap. And the work you're making will be as good as your ambitions. It takes a while. It's going to take you a while. It's normal to take a while, and you just have to fight your way through that. Okay?
Yeah. So that video was pretty much for anyone in doubt about your creative career. I believe that the gap is an important message to keep in mind, because it's not only limited to the creative industry in general. I think it can be applied to everyone who starts out sorry, in a new environment and is willing to improve in whatever they're trying to learn. Um, so yeah. Moving on past our brief intermission, part 2, portfolio building and product design. So this is the making part of this lecture. Yeah. So credentials and disclaimer. One, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to give you this foolproof plan, a one-way ticket to an internship or a job, if you will. But mostly this is actually what I've heard from friends, mentors who have been able to achieve these things. So yeah, take my words as you will. I think this is just what works out for most people. Cool. So what exactly is a design portfolio? It should be a body of work that you're proud of. It's what recruiters will look at in addition to your resume, and actually, it's way more important than your resume, to be honest. More important than your GPA, probably more important than whatever positions you've held, extracurriculars, because this is what what you've actually made yourself, the core of what you've designed. So what goes inside a design portfolio exactly? One, we have project case studies. Asia went over this, or what one would usually look like, in her human-centered design intro lecture. So I guess a typical case study would have a portion where you focus on a problem statement, your how might we solve this problem. You have a lot of user research that you conduct. So this might come in the form of interviews, test trials, things like that. Design justifications, which is your explanations. And yeah, it should be scannable, which means it should be readable and accessible from the comfort of someone's home. You shouldn't have to purposefully seek out this person to interrogate them on your project case study. Obviously, if it's an interview, of course, but they should be readable anywhere. What else goes in a design portfolio? Redesigns. We'll be getting into that in a bit. An about me section, which is highly recommended. You want to know who made this body of work, a way to contact you required. How else is your recruiter gonna know you're hired, or not. But anyways, and your social media handles if you think there's something worth showing there. I know some people have creative Instagrams or other social media that they like to display, other parts of yourself. Where do I put my portfolio? You can put it on GitHub pages or your domain provider. This essentially means buying a domain. I think there are a lot of different places where you can get your domains. Namecheap is one. I personally use Google Domains. So yeah, Squarespace is pretty standard. You'll have to buy it off them. And then there's Wix, which is also another website customization website. This one I think is less standard. I think most people do prefer Squarespace. Oh, and I wanted to say between domain like GitHub pages and Squarespace, GitHub will allow you to host one website. If you don't buy a domain name, it will have to go with the extension of GitHub, like blank.github.io, but it's free. But you will have to like code it from scratch yourself, which is why you took this class. Squarespace and Wix essentially provide templates for you to use to drop your work into. So I guess that's the pro of that if you don't want to program. PDF is acceptable, I guess, but not really recommended at all. And then Medium, Behance, these should be more like additions, not your main portfolio. Usually you want to use Medium or Behance to display like a specific case study or project that you have. So you're like, okay, how you've told me, but like how can I like bootstrap a portfolio really fast, get this thing done within even like, I don't know, 2 weeks to a month? Well, there's you can try and attempt daily UI challenges. This funny story. One semester our staff tried to attempt one, I think a year ago. Haha, it was not very successful, but if you really push yourself to do it, what daily UI does essentially is provide you with UI prompts every day. So they'll, for example, say, hey, create a UI for, here we have, for example, like a boarding information, like a boarding ticket. And, you can go crazy with it. Do whatever you like. But the idea is that it's a daily challenge to push yourself to become better. Yeah. What else? There are unsolicited redesigns. By redesigns, I guess you can take any website, any application you think that could use a redesign and, redesign it. I think a lot of popular projects are people, especially when you're a student in college, we're all usually really frustrated with the UI when it comes to accessing our courses. Cough, cough, beat courses, Cal Central. I'm sure all of these could use better redesigns, and there's countless projects out there that do exactly that. Product ideas. If you have a genuine idea for a product from the start, by all means go ahead and try to create, design whatever you need to present that product. And then if you're fortunate enough to be part of a design class, by all means go ahead and use your design class projects. Especially it's so important when you are doing these projects that you keep documentation so that when you do put it on your website, you can accurately recount everything and show your process. Cool. So actually designing. What exactly should we use, In industry standard, I think most people use Sketch, the Adobe Creative Suite, and Figma. So under prototyping, that would include Framer, Origami Studio, InVision. We taught you guys how to use Adobe XD. I know a lot of you also use Figma as well. And then when it comes to visual design, Illustrator for vector art, Photoshop if you need for image editing purposes. I know a lot of people like to use Photoshop for product mockups as well. And then recently, actually, Procreate is a very powerful illustration program as well. What exactly do I redesign? So I mentioned this already. A lot of people do like redesigns of websites that they commonly use. But more importantly, you should find something that you feel passionate about. Seriously, this is a chance for people to see what you like outside of your typical cookie cutter tech app case studies. You should, if you think of a better UI for your favorite video game, great. Want to create a visual interface for a list of your current reads? Awesome. The point is that you should be trying to have fun when you're creating your portfolio, and it shouldn't feel like a burden. So yeah. Designing in school. So unfortunately, here at Berkeley, it's very difficult to get into design classes. Realistically speaking, this is due to staff limitations. It's not very large, reserve seats, yada yada yada. But if you are interested in what design classes are available here at Berkeley, I've opened up the link right here. Here's a giant list of whatever facet of design you're interested in. There's a class for that, hopefully. For computer graphics animation, 194. Actually, I think it depends. Specific subsets of CS 194, actually. But yeah, some of these are very hard to get into, unfortunately, but I'll address that in a bit. But yeah, there's a lot of classes, mostly upper division. So yeah. Getting back into it, yeah, you have to be, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's just, you have to push yourself. You have to be self-motivated. There are student orgs on campus, Berkeley Innovation, which focuses on human-centered design projects and clients. Innovative design, I think, veers more towards visual design for clients. And then there's also product development at Berkeley. And then web design decal. This is not necessarily a student org, but it's a class. And, again, these are clubs, and because of the nature of Berkeley, you're not necessarily guaranteed to get in. And the thing is, you don't necessarily need these clubs. Please don't get discouraged if you apply and you can't get into them. In fact, the truth of the matter is any club will always need web, graphic, mobile design work. Any club, say your workplace, you can out of your own free will create things for them, better designs if they need it. So yeah, I think design resources are anywhere as long as you push yourself to find them. Also, here's a neat guide from Berkeley Innovation on navigating design resources at Berkeley. This goes basically more in depth into, again, what classes maybe you're interested in taking or should take, and then what clubs to join as well. So cool stuff. I highly suggest you guys look at it in your own free time. But yeah, again, if you can't get into these clubs, there's always events that they'll put up. Mostly design-related events. I know Berkeley Innovation does a human-centered design conference where they invite speakers from the product design industry to speak. And then Innovative Design hosts HEX, which stands for Hone and Explore, which are these free student-led workshops on photography, visual design like illustration and web design throughout the semester. They also have CMYK and RGB, one being a designathon and the other being a speaker series from designers as well. And then Jacobs in general, the program offers speaker series throughout the semester too. So that is really cool, and you should most definitely check it out. Again, you're probably wondering, oh, but I'm a blank major, or there's no blank major, or I mean, design major at Berkeley. Your major literally does not matter. I guess if you really, really, really cared, you could create one yourself. That's what ISF is for, but you'd have to write a lengthy paper to petition for that. But anyways, again, your major does not matter. I think some might say, oh, most of the people I know who are going into design are cognitive science or CS. That's, I guess, statistically that may be true, but again, I've known people who have completely changed their career trajectories and have nothing to do with their major once they've gotten into the design major industry. So do not worry, but it's mostly up to you on how you want to spend your time and how much devotion you want to put towards pursuing these external design endeavors. So again, encouragement. Please don't feel too overwhelmed with all of this. Again, you have the gap to remember by. It might be a slow process, but progress is still progress, right? Again, don't be discouraged because we don't have a design major. There are actually plenty of people who've graduated from Berkeley, gotten product design jobs or design jobs in general. So you don't have to feel alone in the fact that, oh, I feel like there's no one else trying to do the same thing as me. And yeah, I guess to, again, encourage you guys, one, keep creating. This pretty much reiterates what I've said from the Finding Inspiration lecture, but yeah, keep creating. Two, think about why. And this doesn't even have to be limited to the design of the apps on your phone. You can think about architecture. You can think about nature, why things are the way they are. Observation honestly is a key part to becoming a better designer. Sit down and mess around. So set aside time for yourself to, experiment and learn new things. And again, maybe what you make the first time is not what you envisioned, but at least you know what you don't like and you can move past that. So here's the part of the lecture where we dump more resources. Books. A lot of these are really cool. I think you can find them easily off Amazon. The Design of Everyday Things is a great book to read. So are the rest of these. There are plenty of books. Cofolios is the resource I mentioned earlier. And this is a really cool, I think, all-around resource for people who are interested in pursuing design. So you can see up here in the upper right tab, we have portfolios, we have jobs, case studies, and office hours. If you're ever interested in looking at what other designers' portfolios look like, here they all are. These are people who've previously interned at all these companies. For example, if we open this up, you can go ahead and click on anyone's website right here. There's Gemma. She used to be one of our old instructors. But yeah, you can go through these in your own time. Take a look at what people have included on their websites, what their websites look like. And again, more importantly, please do not plagiarize. This is not okay, but this is more for you guys to get a sense of what you're supposed to put on your portfolio. They also have a job tab that basically lists job openings for new graduates, internships as well. Case studies, if you're interested on what should I do my case study on? These are people's case studies that they've listed available for people to look at. Again, please do not copy what these people have done. They've put in long hours of hard work into their case studies, but again, take it as inspiration. And I think the coolest feature on Cofolios is this tab called Office Hours. Some of these students actually have set up time slots. If you're interested, looking for advice or maybe feedback on your portfolio, students here have set up time slots, that you can sign up for and basically have like a virtual coffee chat or a one-on-one for them to address anything that you need, advice, internship questions, yada yada yada. They're, that's really cool. It's like, virtual GSI, virtual TA, but, yeah. So, Cofolios, great resource. There are podcasts. If you're a podcast person, I personally love 99% Invisible, which is this first one right here. But yeah, if you ever find yourself itching to listen to some podcasts, here are some really cool ones. And then newsletters. I think that's pretty straightforward. You basically will receive weekly newsletters about what's going on in the UX community, the design community, on a week-to-week basis. So, yeah, that's the end of my finding inspirations and portfolio building lecture. With all of that, good luck. And again, if you ever need any advice, I think feel free to email staff, email me. I'm sure we'd be glad to talk to you about what resources you can find. If you ever want feedback on anything, or if you just want to chat and get to know us better, we're always open to doing so. So, yeah. Again, if you can't find the attendance, it's on the programming slides. And with that, thank you everyone for listening in on this week's lecture. Please stay healthy, please stay safe, and goodbye.